Welcome, everybody. This is our inaugural podcast called Mental Health Matters. You can find us on our YouTube channel. And our idea is we want to share information and resources on all things mental health, plus give you an inside look at what is happening at Palomar Family Counseling Service. Left untreated, mental health issues can have dire consequences for individuals, families, and communities. And we here at Palomar Family Counseling are on a mission to change that. So today we are talking about couples therapy, and a new group that we are launching for couples. So I am excited to introduce Julie Christensen. Julie is one of our therapists at Palomar Family Counseling. So welcome, Julie. Thank you for doing this for me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Can you give us the biography of Julie Christensen in 5 minutes or less?
In 5 minutes or less. Okay. Well, when it comes to couples counseling and me personally, this is a great passion I have of mine. So my husband and I, we have been together since high school. So we're
Wow.
approaching 29 years
Wow.
together, 25 married, and we have 13 kids, which is a lot, but
Wow.
most
Fantastic.
of them are adopted internationally. So they're not all, biological. And that's because I worked for 15 years with adoptive families in international adoptions, mostly out of West Africa.
Oh, wow. How interesting.
Yeah. And so I spent a lot of time in the family, helping couples, helping families with cohesion, with change, with adjustment. Bringing a new member in is always it kind of upsets the apple cart for a little while. So helping them put
Sure.
the apples back in and figuring out a new normal.
Great. Great. Wow. You have an extremely interesting background. I'm fascinated by, I grew up in a family of 7 children, and I think we thought that was a lot. But
It
that
is.
it that mealtime must be fascinating at your house.
Yeah, it's like Christmas every day.
That's fantastic. Okay, so talk to us about couples and maybe explain to us why couples would seek counseling from a therapist or even want to. And let me preface that by saying we've been doing some research recently on what people are searching for in San Diego County as it relates to counseling services, and by far 10 times greater, 50 times greater, 100 times greater, the search is for couples counseling. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I want to just jump off what you said there that the reason why I believe there is such a high demand for couples counseling right now actually has a lot to do with the pandemic we just went through.
Uh,
A lot of people are kind of reevaluating what's going on in my life. People are reevaluating if they want to work from home or they're going to work at the office, or this is where they want to live. And I think a lot of people, and this is really the crux of what happens with couples counseling, they get to the point where they say, if we're going to do this, let's fix it. Let's do this right. Let's fix what's going on. So this can be great for both of us. And in a nutshell, that's why people come to couples counseling. Something isn't running as smoothly, or it's broken, and
uh,
people want to get it fixed. Now, a real cool statistic is that just came out, I want to say 2020, was that 95% of people who go to couples therapy would say it works. It helps
hmm.
strengthen their relationship. It helps clarify for them their relationship goals. So, the idea that, well, should we even do it? Will it work? For most people, it seems to. It seems to be very beneficial.
So does each person in the couple have to equally be engaged in the counseling process? So if it's the husband saying we got to go do this and the wife is reluctant, or vice versa, is that good, or do
Yeah.
both have to be in?
So that is, I'm glad you brought that up. that's one of the things we assess when we first start working with a couple is what their level of commitment is to the
Mm,
relationship. The truth is, therapy only works, whether it's a couple or an individual or a family, if people want it to work, if they want to do the work that's required to fix those relationships or change those behavior patterns or understand their past. All things take work and therapy
yep.
does too. If someone comes to therapy just because it's the last ditch effort and they're not going to put their energy into it, well, then it's not really going to work. Um, and most people come to therapy later than they should have. Most
Ah,
people come to therapy after some damage has been done instead of when they first see, the cracks coming to fix it. Now we have a little bit more work to do. We got to chip some stuff away and re-pour instead of just fix.
why do you think people might be reluctant? A couple might be reluctant, like when that first crack appears, because I can really understand or appreciate what you're saying. Like at some point, maybe it's too late. Too much damage has been done, and hopefully it's never too late. But how could a couple assess where they're at themselves, where they feel like,
So usually the cracks begin with communication.
hmm,
So Gottman would say he's kind of a leader in couples therapy, and
okay.
he has this idea that there are four horsemen of the apocalypse of a relationship, to borrow a biblical euphemism.
Yeah.
And he would say, whenever these creep into your conversations, to your communication, that's a real good warning sign that there are some cracks.
Huh.
And it starts with criticism. If there's a lot of criticism, and criticism is not just, the dinner was a little salty. It's, there's more weight to it. That dinner sucked. So there's
Uh,
a little bit more oomph behind it. There is the next one is defensiveness, and that can be oh shoot, the house is a mess. Well, I work all day. I don't know why you're so upset about the house. That just jumping to the defensiveness is an indication. Stonewalling, and this one gets a little tricky because people will say, I didn't want to fight, so I just walked away. Great, except then we just didn't talk for like a week.
yeah.
Stonewalling is just refusing to discuss it, refusing to have any communication at all. And then the last one, and this one's really the kicker. This one, they say, if this is there, things are pretty, they're pretty rocky. And that's contempt. When we get to the
Mm,
point where we no longer think the other person has our best in mind, um, then then contempt creeps
mm.
in. And that's really one of the big ones to say, maybe we need to go get some help with this.
Interesting. What about the dynamic of children? So I'm assuming that these types of that there might not be, like, it's not after 5 years is when the cracks appear, or after 10, or maybe cracks could appear after the first 5 months or something. And then so maybe talk about that a little bit, and then talk about the
Sure.
dynamic of children.
Yeah, so there are parts in kind of the life cycle of a relationship where there's just natural reassessment bits. Everybody's heard of the honeymoon phase that
Hmm.
happens after a new relationship gets going and starting. Yes, the birth of a child or the addition of a child really starts to change the dynamic because it's no longer just the two partners involved. Now there's another little person, and often that person starts to take center stage. And it's a little life. And of course, people put all their energy and effort into that. That's where there's a little bit of a caution because in order to be the best parent you can be, and in order to be the best partner you can be, you have to be the best you can be.
Mm,
And if you start putting those things out of order, then relationships suffer. Your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with your kid. because you're trying to get things from them to fix something that they can't fix. So kids can add a dynamic to it, and not just the presence of the kids, the difficulty level. You
Yeah.
start to add more, you start to get outnumbered, they get difficult. The teenage years, there is a lot. And then, you want to throw in a kid with special needs
Right.
or learning issues, or get very gifted, very
Yeah.
talented. Any kiddo that's going to take extra oomph, that adds to the whole process too. So that can be one. When the kids leave home, that's another time
Mm.
people reassess. And then during retirement is
Huh.
another time. And so these are kind of the milestones that people look at. And I'll tell you an interesting story. So my husband and I, we met in high school, and we got married after college, but we didn't have a lot of money. So we didn't go on a honeymoon. And we had kids a couple years after we were married, and it was our 10-year wedding anniversary. And our family and friends were like, go, 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 go. We got the kids.
Ah,
So we went to Banff, Canada.
there you go.
And
Okay.
yeah, we got in the airplane and we talked and talked and talked and talked. And then we got out, and it's about a 3-hour drive. We got in the car and we talked and talked and talked and talked. And then we got to our little cabin and we got inside, and it's like the door shut, and we stood there and stared at each other. We'd said all there was to say. We
Ah,
talked about the kids. We talked about the job. We talked about the house. We talked about our friends. We talked about all there was to talk about. That was the going on in our life. And we got scared. And we actually got into a
mm,
fight. And it was at that point that we decided, if we are going to do this thing, are we just going to be partners in raising kids, and then when they're gone, we're done? Or are we going to make this good? If we have to do this, let's do it well. Let's do it not just good. Let's make it epic. And
wow.
so that's the decision we made. Okay, so what's it going to take to make it epic? And that's when we started to elevate our relationship. And we actually, I don't know how this doesn't work for everybody. We actually both went and got tattoos on our wrists that
Oh,
say, you see mine, it says
there it
one
is.
life. And it stands for, this is it. This is our one life. And live intentionally, faithfully endure is what that stands for. And so we got matching
Mm,
ones on our wrists to kind of remind ourselves, if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's do it great. Let's be intentional. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be stuff we need to
yeah.
endure. There's going to be stuff that we need to have each other's back with. And that's the whole faithful endure part with it. And this is where we get back to the whole commitment level of couples. Couples come in and often they're disillusioned. I don't know. I don't know if this is fixable. I don't know if I want to fix it. I don't know what's going on here. And that's really my number one thing is, can we have a conversation, a frank conversation at the beginning? And can you be inspired to make this epic?
Mm,
Can we do that? If that's something you guys want to do, if that's something, the rest of it's skills, the rest of it's work, the rest of it's living intentionally. I can teach that. I can help you with that. I can cheer you on. I love being a cheerleader. I can cheer you on through that. But it really starts with that first decision. Are we going to make this work?
wow. Wow. Thanks for sharing all of that. That's really gives a really good insight into how people would even approach thinking about going into therapy. And one question before we jump into talking about the group, um, what about a situation where one partner might say to the other, or is there ever a time where it would be better for one person to seek out counseling for themselves rather than as a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some situations where couples counseling isn't the best fit right now. So some of those are if one of the partners is really struggling with substance abuse
Okay.
or misuse. Um, that can be difficult. And if that partner is wanting to work on that substance abuse and misuse, they would need to seek their own individual therapist. If the partner of the person with the substance use, they're going to also want to seek their own therapist in their ability to process living with someone with a substance use. Same thing, you can substitute out substance use for mental health or physical diagnosis that's pretty severe.
Uh,
So if somebody's got cancer and we're trying to, let's deal with the emergency first before we try and throw in a couple thing. If there's a mental health component, somebody's living with schizophrenia or bipolar, um, borderline personality disorder, something along those lines, making sure that everybody has a place to individually work on their own skills first is great. There's a number of couples that I work with that I say, okay, I will see you as a couple if you both go get therapists. If you both are in
okay.
individual therapy, then I'll work with you as a couple. And the reason is one of the big things that happens with couples is this thing we call enmeshment. And I usually show it like this. Here's a person and here's a person. And a relationship is meant to be kind of like dancing, right? Like we go together because we choose to, because we want to be near each other. But when this happens, it starts being an entanglement where I need you to do or be something so I feel complete. I need you to do or be
Ah,
something so I feel complete. And so then it's this tug of war that ends up happening instead. So if the individuals can seek therapy and get themselves to the place where they need to be, it makes the couples therapy a lot easier. And we define that a lot with autonomy, letting each other be their own person, and and boundaries, what emotional boundaries.
okay.
They
Okay.
can't fix something in me.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the group then. So you're launching a couples group at Palomar. So tell us why you wanted to launch a couples group, and yeah, let's start off with that.
Okay.
Why a group?
So, why a group? Couple reasons. One, it's efficient. Just the
Oh,
nuts
that's
and
a
bolts.
good reason.
It's
Yeah.
efficient. So a lot of what happens in a couples class like this, it's skills. We're not processing what happens in your kitchen, what happens in your bedroom. We're
Okay.
not sharing personal stuff. What we're doing is we're processing and practicing skills and concepts and ideas that, there's no real manual for how to do these relationships. And each one's unique, just like kids. And so there's some, a little bit of guidance. So for real, there's a component of just it's easier to have everybody together in a room,
Yeah.
so we can learn these skills. There's also a community aspect in it. Things feel a little bit more like I'm not out here alone
Right.
when you enter a group and see, oh, you know what? There's some other people that look just like me having issues just like me. These
Yep.
aren't crazy. These aren't the end of the world. These just I never knew how to do this before. So we're all here learning, how to do it. So there's that aspect of it too. So there's, kind of a mix.
Yeah, yeah, no, it sounds, and I think maybe if it's explained as well, like I was saying group, but maybe it's best explained as a class, because then it maybe that feels a little bit more accessible to people as well.
Yeah. So I've had some people ask, will I have to talk in the group? No, not if you don't want to. The whole point behind it and the way it's structured is it's a workbook style.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're gonna get a workbook at the beginning, and you can follow along and take notes as we teach. And so there'll be a section of, like an opening section. Then we introduce the topic. There's some teaching. You can take notes. And then we assign homework. And that's really where this gets, applied is let's take these concepts. There's like 2 or 3 homework assignments. Do you have to do it? No. But you'll get out of it what you put into it.
Right.
So it's recommended that you take this and each person gets a workbook. So you get a chance to process these within yourself and then have a conversation with your partner over them. Try some of this stuff, learn some of this stuff. And a lot of it is learning things about yourself and learning things about your partner that you may have not known. An example is personality differences. So I've had a number of couples struggle with he just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, and it's exhausting. And then he'll say, well, she just doesn't seem like she's listening to me at all. I feel completely ignored. Well, then we do the personality profile and we realize, one of them is an extroverted external processor. They need to talk. They like to talk. That's how they process. The other one is an internal introverted processor. They need to think. And the 2 of them get overwhelmed and they then think that the other person is not meeting them where they're at. Understanding this differences, we can just tweak it a little bit and say, the one who talks a lot to the one who needs to, process, you don't need to listen to everything he has to say. You want to use nonverbals. You want to encourage them to continue to process. And then at the end, you're going to say, thank you. Could you summarize that in a sentence for me? Because the person who is externally processing, not everything they said, they meant. Right. Because they're processing. So then they can go, oh yeah, okay. And then they boil it down to a sentence for the person. Okay. Of course, then what do you think? I'm going to need a minute to think about that. Let's talk about it at dinner. Oh, okay. So then it's the understanding that the other person is going to take it all in and think it through. And what they come back with at dinner is going to have been thought through the entire day because that's how they work. They don't process externally, they process internally. And so you're going to get like a nugget of truth coming out of them when you get them at dinner because they've been thinking about it all day. Well, when couples understand these differences in each other, all of a sudden a communication personality difference isn't a liability, it's an asset.
Yes.
And you can start saying, hey, hon, would you think about boop, 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 boop today, please, and let me know what you think at dinner? And, my husband does that to me a lot. And I'm like, okay, sure. When I have, and then it's kind of brewing in me for the whole day. Right. And I can come back at dinner and tell him what I thought. And he's like, oh, thank you. That, saved me a lot of time. And, I appreciate that response. And, so there's some liability, or there's the ability to take those liabilities and turn them into assets and benefits for each other.
That's great. That's great. So it sounds like people, if they enroll in the group, and you can tell us a little bit more about that process, but if they enroll in the group, they're going to walk out with a nice little toolkit that they can use to really strengthen their relationship.
They're going to know more about themselves, know more about their partner, more about the uniqueness of their relationship, how the 2 of them combined, and they're going to have tools to communicate. We do intimacy, and intimacy is not just what happens in the bedroom. There are actually 5 different forms of intimacy. There's emotional, intellectual, physical, spiritual, and experiential intimacy. And it's important to have elements of all 5. Most people don't know that. They think, what happens in the bedroom is intimacy. But the truth is, what happens in the bedroom is often a result of what happens in those other 4 areas. And so, they really need to go together. And so we cover intimacy. We cover money. We cover how you talk about money, budgeting, who's the spender, who's the saver. That's a lot of conflict comes over money. We give them tools to talk about that. And then we do a little bit of protective teaching. And that the last two sessions are focused on dreaming, so like future orientedness and resiliency. So
Ah,
what are your dreams? Dreaming together, planning your future, looking forward together. We do it when we're young and then we stop. And
yeah.
there's always the when we're retired, but it kind of seems like a pie in the sky. Let's get specific. What are some things you want to do? Where are some places you want to go? What are some dreams you want to have? And
Ah, yes.
sharing those with each other really strengthens the relationship as well.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like such a great opportunity. So how can people learn more if they're interested? I know that you've set it up as to be like a 10-week
Mhm.
session. So tell us how what does it look like? Is it one time a week? What's the time commitment and how do they get more information?
Yeah, so the way it works is it's once a week for 10 weeks. We structure it so it doesn't hit holidays, it's not running into, that kind of thing. So it should fit within the rhythms of normal life. And it's Wednesdays from 6 to 7. And it's here at our office, and we're gonna do a Zoom option as well.
Oh,
Um,
great.
we're not quite sure yet when the Zoom option will be, but the in-person one will be Wednesdays from 6 to 7 at the offices here in Escondido. And you can call our front office. I think phone number and contact stuff will be in the
Yep. I'm going to
links.
put this. Yep. I'll put that at the end.
Great. Yeah, so you can call them and just ask them for the information and that you'd like to register for the class. We're starting it in January. So get on the list now because there is only a few, it's a limited limited spots. And the cost is super reasonable. It is the cost of a regular therapy session for a couple. So it ends up
Okay.
being the same cost as coming in for therapy. So it's about $50 a couple
Ah,
per class or per week. So it becomes really reasonable. And with that, you get all of the materials, you get the teachings, and you really get that opportunity to live intentionally.
nice. Nice. Great. Great. I'm excited to share this information and for people to hear about it and hopefully some people can get over that a little bit of that fear factor about seeing a therapist or going in for counseling or participating in a group. All right.
Yeah.
We are going to end our session, but here's what I've always wanted to do this questionnaire. And I know some people might have already heard this questionnaire before, but it's a questionnaire famously or notoriously used by James Lipton on Inside the Actors Studio. And it was created by a French interviewer. His name is Bernard Pivot. So
Okay.
Julie, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. Hmm. Home.
What is your least favorite word?
Stress.
What are you passionate about? Passionate about.
I am passionate about living life to the fullest.
Nice. What annoys you? What bothers you? Or do you find to be a complete turn off?
A child who repeats my name over and over. Mom, 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 mom.
And if you've got a lot of children all repeating it, then it's like this orchestra going on with mom, which might tie into the next question. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, mm, I think I love the sound of my family getting along, like them
Mm,
just enjoying each other and laughing,
very
teasing each
nice.
other, hanging out, spending time,
What sound or noise do you hate?
fighting, conflict,
All right.
screaming.
What, yes, not good. What other profession than the one you're currently doing would you like to attempt?
Um, I would like to own my own business and
Ah,
do a little bit. I'd like to do some relationship coaching and counseling, that kind of thing. But I'm also kind of passionate in working with executives within the business field. A lot of these principles and a lot of these principles for couples can
yep.
actually be applied to C teams and businesses and that sort of stuff. So, that's something else I'd like to try.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was thinking this sounds a lot like leadership development stuff as well. So, absolutely. So, my last question is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done.
All right. Thank you, Julie.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone, for watching. And don't forget to subscribe because we will have much more content coming soon.
Thanks.